Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited about my next author. His name is Chris Steed, and his book is called The 7 Songs, follow-on and linked book, Finding the Valuable Person. Chris, we're glad you're here.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to come and speak to all the audience today.
Yeah, well, you've got an amazing message in your book. We'd love for you to start by sharing what is that main message?
The main message, Suzanne, is about how we do life in these days, because COVID completely upended all the assumptions about how life works. So the 7 songs is a kind of mystical journey, and it's just as a narrative. It's about a guy who does a tour, as it were, of lots of different people and asks questions. He's not there just to spout answers. He's there to probe what is ultimate now. What do we really believe is ultimate out there? And the result in 7 songs, 7 themes, as it were, of human existence. And I put that together into a kind of a symphony. And what that adds up to is a theme song, a music of the world and the ultimate heart longings. What do we believe is ultimate?
What are those 7 individual pieces that you're talking about? Can you name them for us?
Yes. So the first song is the Song of Birds and Endless Stars.
And what does that represent?
The song of creation. So when we look at this fantastic arena, the theatre of the environment of creation that we see everywhere, the magnificent numbers of birds. Did you know there's 8,600 types of birds? How come we got so many? Second song is the Song of the Riddler and the Riddle. And that's about the puzzle of existence. And I might add, some of these themes. They're supplemented from the book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible. And it really lends itself to the riddle of our existence. For everything, there's a season and a time for every matter under the heaven, a time to be born and a time to die. Third song, the Song of the Threefold Chord, about community, the human longing for relationship. Fourth song, the Song of the Hunter and the Hunted. I observed, says Ecclesiastes, all the oppression under the sun, and therefore the mess we make of things. The fifth song is the Song of the Court. God will call the past to account. In other words, the sigh and cry in human affairs for justice, for recompense, something to sort out, what the good from the evil, and when will the injustice cease? Sixth song, almost there, Song of the Flame that leaps upwards, the song of the longing for something beyond ourselves, the longing for God, the longing for the divine, eternity in the hearts of humanity, to quote Ecclesiastes. And lastly, I call it the Song of Diamonds in the Dust, Suzanne, the Song of Diamonds in the Dust, and that's all about hope and redemption.
Chris, what is it about the book of Ecclesiastes that has such a foundation for you?
Well, it provides a great set of hooks at one basic level, a framework, but crucially, it provides a philosophy of life. And now you don't have to buy into the whole of that philosophy, because actually I then pivot the whole thing into a Christian framework and show why, I'm fully aware we live in a secular age and all that, acutely aware of that, and yet what other philosophy of life stacks up and makes sense when you put all the individual longings of the human heart, what we long for, what we hope for in these days, put all that together, and how do you create a symphony? If you were to ask postmodern people, well, what do you believe is ultimate out there? And you put their worldview together, and I don't think they'd be able to stack it up. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm trying to do. The follow-on book unpacks that at the level of how you translate that philosophy of life, as it were, into a therapy. But I'll say a bit more about that in just a minute. But the 7 songs is intentionally mystical. It's intended to have a poetic feel.
I was going to say it's very almost romantic.
Well, no one's ever said it quite like that.
But God loves us, and there is romance in,
Hmm.
in a different way.
It's intended to have a lyrical quality.
Yeah, yeah. What do you hope, just expound a little bit more on what you're saying. What do you hope that someone will actually do? I think I have a good idea of what you're hoping they'll feel or understand. What actions then do you want them to take?
I want them to give a serious ponder, a serious thought as to how do we put our world together? And if we, for example, if we reject a religious worldview, say, then how do we put that? What do we make of what is ultimate? If we believe in multiplicity of the divine or something, well, how does that respond to our sense of personhood? Which brings me neatly, I might add, to the follow on and linked book, because that is all about the sigh and the cry for our personhood to be acknowledged, to be recognized and affirmed. And I believe, as per the seven songs, that ultimately the only real way you can go with that is to say that that human longing for personhood, to be noticed, recognized, loved, all these very human aspirations, the needs of our lives actually, are met in a framework of life which makes sense of it.
You talk about the valuable person. What, in your mind and your research, what does valuable exactly mean?
So I began to write the seven songs. I heard, I was in this conference, and I heard this voice, it's just as if you're talking to me now, saying, write it, write it. And I felt, I've got to write something. I've got to write it down. Then I began to get ideas for the seven songs. And then a couple of years later, I put that into a cupboard, I might add. About the year 2000, I had some rough ideas, sent it to a publisher, and they said, no, there's no kind of impetus. COVID gave me that sense of impetus. But about 20 years ago, I was working with some clients and talking to people in a pastoral counselling context, and they were describing the narratives, things that were going on in their lives, and then they said, "But and then this person leaned forward, I'm worth more than that. I'm worth more than that." And I thought, well, that's intriguing, a familiar enough statement, to be sure. But why are they telling me about their value as if we're discussing the value of a second-hand car or a house? What is it about the
Wow.
human need to be valued? And then I went on. How can you make that into a therapy? Because we could go through all your audience today, Suzanne. I could ask them, and I am asking them actually, under what circumstances do you feel disrespected, trashed, eroded, devalued? Whether it's in social life or interpersonal life. And we probably come up with, because I've tried this, probably come up with the same sort of things. So what I did is link that together in various books. And then this latest one is, well, how do you make a therapy out of it? A therapy, I might add, that's got a working model in the community of Watford in North London. So I'm hoping to bring that book out next year. So I wanted to flag that up because it kind of unpacks the seven songs, translates it
It's
into
all so woven together.
therapy. Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Absolutely
yeah.
is.
You talk about 4 main points and how it relates to psychology. Would you expound on that?
Yes, so these are basic human longings, and bearing in mind that central thrust, that central drive, which is, I believe, the human need to be valued, to be worthwhile, a
Mhm.
worthwhile person, pardon me, living a worthwhile life. So what I've done is develop that into a social theory. I've got a doctorate which expounds that. But the 4 main points then that kind of trigger from that are relationship, pardon me, the need for relationship, patterns of relating, and then embodied existence, joyful embodiment. And the third one is meaning making, the meaning, the interpreting world, that we're just compulsive meaning makers in all that we do. And then lastly, agency, the prospecting for agency and hope, that we can take responsibility and get somewhere in our lives. We're not stuck. And that comes together. Well, that stands for REMA, as the sharp-eared amongst you will have noticed, and that then stacks up. And so the approach is called the REMA model of counseling, but crucially, it's got this big imperative, the central driver. So it's not Freud, in as much as, yes, we recognize the power of the unconscious. That's a big part of it, actually. But it's ultimately, it's kind of theological in as much as it's this need to be existentially placed, to be valued, to have our lives count for something.
Yes. Yes. Now, unbelievably, we're beginning to wrap up the interview already. If someone would like to counsel with you, and maybe get some therapy, I understand that it's very unique. It's a new form, and it's also very reasonably priced. Can you talk about that?
Yes, well, the price of the 7 songs, now, a note of caution, I'm not quite sure what the US dollar price is, but in UK, it's around about 8 UK pounds, maybe $11 or $12 or something. But the therapy book has not yet been priced. That's all with publishers now. I hope to speak about it at various conferences. In fact, I am speaking about it next month. Well, what that does is bring counseling, sociology, the things of race and gender, so important, into our understanding of human functioning.
And where is your book available?
So the 7 songs is available on Amazon. I'm not going to say it's available from any good bookshop near you, but certainly from Amazon. And the other one, the therapy book, Finding the Valuable Person, will be published by Cascade Publishers in Oregon, and that will then be distributed worldwide.
Chris Steed, we thank you so much. Thank you for what you're sharing to make the world a better place. Have a great day.
Thank you, Angie.